Trump crash India's economy? Tariffs. Or in Indian, let's say, lexicon, that simply means duty, which means like it's like a tax that, let's say, one country puts on other countries' imports. Under normal circumstances, I'm a free market exponent. I believe that, for example, that if everybody is allowed to export to every place with minimal barriers, as long as they don't cheat, as long as it's not a monopoly, customers get the best deal possible. For example, if I'm allowed to import, let's say, furniture from China at zero duty, or buy furniture from India at zero duty, I will get the best deal. And in fact, the Chinese and Indian manufacturers will actually have to compete. The Chinese manufacturers have to be a little more efficient because they have to ship their things from there. Okay? So my point being, we find it's not the producer, but it's the consumer. It's not the actual maker of the product or the service, but the actual consumer, which means the actual common man who's most important. Very often countries try to benefit let's say, the industry, and therefore the employees of the industry, which is very good, no doubt. But finally, the biggest population is not the guy who makes the steel or makes the car or makes the furniture, but the guy who consumes it. A lot more people buy cars than make it. So my logic being that if you have a free market, practically anybody can export anywhere, anybody can import anywhere with minimal restrictions. As long as there's no dumping, as long as there's no government subsidies for one country. Trump's tariffs, on the other hand, has a different twist to it altogether. There's certainly, at least at one shot, there will be a spike in prices. And I think Trump understands that. The way he sees it is that these are short-term pains for long-term gains. That's the way he sees it. Now, but he has something else very peculiar called reciprocal tariffs, which means comes with the law of reciprocality, which is on which the most fundamental human ethic, that is called the law of the golden mean, or the golden rule, it's called. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's as simple as that. So it's the single most fundamental ethical principle that we have. It's called an axiom of ethics. Probably the number one axiom. It simply says that, okay, if China is putting a tariff or tax or import duty of 130% on American cars, America should also put a duty of 130% on Chinese cars. And some cases, some countries do not import or export same products. So in India's case, for example, India puts 150% duty on American alcohol. So Trump's thing is, okay, then we'll put the 150 or 100% or whatever tariff or import duty on with things which India is exporting to America. This is also being, okay, you reduce your import duties on our products, people reduce our import duties on your products. This is a very, very basic stuff. But frankly, I think the real world is more complicated. The first problem is India often, for example, it wants to protect, let's say, its farmers, or France wants to protect its farmers, and therefore it actually prevents other countries from exporting, let's say, the onions or the wheat or the rice to India, because other Indian farmers may not be able to compete. Now, the question is, the Indian farmers are formed, by the way, a large portion of the Indian public, and they're extremely poor. So I would say, I think the Indian government thing has always been thing is, how would you want Indian industry, which is comparatively, let's face it, very underdeveloped compared to that in the West, how would they be able to compete with, let's say, an American company or a Chinese company if we don't put a tariff on Chinese or American products? Because in which case, what will happen, the Indian industry and Indian farming and many of the Indian services would actually go kaput. Because they cannot compete with those guys unless, in other words, if you bring in a Chinese product worth $100, you put a tariff of $25, which means it becomes $125. That means the Indian product guy can price his product at least up to $124 to still be able to compete with the Chinese guy. But if he were actually imported the Chinese product at $100, the Indian guy would have to make his product prices $98 or $99 or maybe $90 to be able to compete, which means his profit margins will be much lesser. But in many cases, let's say, especially with farmers and especially with industries which are just starting off, okay? Like in India, there are many industries which are still starting off. Let's say the AI industry for that matter, or many industries are just starting off. They often need some kind of hand-holding. It's like a mother protecting her young child, her young kid. You don't send him out into the real world to do boxing right initially. Initially, in case of an attack, in case an outsider comes in, she will form a shield, which is nothing but a tariff, around the child. Until the child one day becomes strong enough to stand on his own feet. Then the mother moves away, and it should move away. So then the child can fight his own battles. In a way, many tariffs are something along those lines. That many countries impose tariffs on, let's say, American products or Indian products or European products because they want to protect their own industry or their own farmers or whatever. The problem, of course, is America hardly has any tariffs. They almost have import duty free regime. They have a few things here and there, but mostly no. So the way Trump sees is, our products, people are putting a huge import duty on our products. We put almost zero import duty to anybody else. Okay, so how is it even fair? Free market is what I have grown up with. I've seen how the free market works, how free market has made pauper countries like China and like my own motherland, which was struggling until 1980s. But after the post-Reformation, we certainly have on a different level altogether compared to our socialist days. So I see the advantage of a free market. But having said that, so we don't exactly know where the world is going to be. This is something we have not experienced in a long time. You had socialist economies at some place, and because what's happening is because Trump is doing this, other countries also started doing it. In fact, because Trump put a 25% duty on let's say steel and aluminium from Canada put another duty of its own, including on electricity exports, which I think they have withdrawn by the Ontario state. So which means now it's become a rolling game, and nobody knows where this is going to lead. We really do not know. The way Trump sees it, he says that it will be great. The way it will be beautiful, he says. But that's a wait and watch. And guys, like, share, subscribe. Because press that bell icon. It helps me a lot. It helps show my feed to a lot of people like you who like my kind of stuff. So God then help us, guys. Thank you.